I said, okay, we're gonna steal this Tomcat. We got to get the startup procedure right. Because if we don't, we're gonna get laughed at by every Tomcat pilot and reel in the world. Tomcat pilot and reel in the world, on the world, on the world.
So as a Top Gun guy, I loved Maverick. I got to see it for the first. I've only seen it 2 times, but when I got to see it, all of the admirals were down at our annual kind of training session down in Pensacola, and Kenny Weitzel organized a premiere for all of the retired and active flags in the IMAX at the Naval Aviation Museum. So we all got in there in the IMAX, and of course, you know, the audience is like hooting and hollering and yelling, and I like the movie a lot. Well, first of all, the flying is unbelievably awesome. I thought they developed the characters really well, and it was kind of cool, and they brought in those connections from the previous one. And so I thought it was just kind of cool. And then they got to the last 20 minutes. And so watching the movie, okay, it's really entertaining, you know, kind of thing. And okay, in retrospect, sure, now it's Super Hornets, it used to be Tomcats. And so when Tom Cruise or when, you know, Mav and Rooster are on the top looking down at those airplanes, and I see the cans, you know, the burners inside the shelter, I'm like, no way, no way, you know. So those guys go down and running across, and they walk and they run across and they go get in the Tomcat. I'm like, no way. I mean, like yelling the whole time. I'm like, oh my God, you know, no way. And so I thought they did a real good job of the movie. I said, no, technical fault, because the hardest thing to do in a Tomcat was to start it. The second hardest thing to do was figure out how to put the ladder up. You know, that was the thing, we had to train everybody to do that. And to be able to just hop up on the horizontal step, which we did use to get in the cockpit, is pretty hard to do too. And of course, you watch the actor do all those things. I'm like, no way, you know. And what was epic to me, the very first thing that caught me was when you see the airplane actually taxi out of the shelter, the canopy's bouncing like it used to. I mean, my God, however they did that. And I still don't know where that Tomcat came from. I don't know where the CGI, somebody says no CGI, so where'd they get a Tomcat? What is that? But the canopy was bouncing. So even the technical guys, when you taxi with the canopy open, it actually bounces a little bit. And I watched the thing getting lowered down, and it did exactly what it always does. I'm like, oh my God. Then it, you know, it takes off with the wings out, no flaps. I'm like, no, there's no way it would have, you know. So then they go fight, and I am yelling the whole time. Me and Proton McLaughlin have this fun thing going on. He's like, the big fighter, I hate the big fighter. You know, I hate the big fighter. And he's sitting right in front of me. I'm banging on his head. And I'm yelling at him the whole time going, dude, the big fighter, look at that. The culmination of the movie is the Tomcat. You know, he's like, oh God, you know. And so had an awesome time watching that. And second time I watched with my wife, Kelly, and we went to the local movie theater and, you know, sat in these reclining chairs and enjoyed totally the second time. I thought they did a great job with the story. The flying is epic. The characters are great. It extends the, you know, the franchise for naval aviation. I think it's really well done. And I applaud Tom Cruise for sort of keeping the message alive. And I think that's really neat. So yeah, I liked it a lot. And the way they did the Tomcat piece was really cool.
Happy to see that Top Gun Maverick came out. Since I was involved in making the first movie, I was a Top Gun instructor when they filmed the original Top Gun. And I flew the Black F-5F as a Rio. I flew in the back of the Black F-5F, MiG-28s. And also, you know, as I mentioned, I watched the mountains. All the Top Gun instructors and a lot of Tomcat guys or fighter guys at Miramar contributed to that movie, contributed little bits and things like that. So I really felt ownership from the original movie, and I was happy to see that they were finally doing a sequel. So when it came out, I went to see it with, you know, really modest expectations. I know it's only a movie. Actually, I heard some concerning things about it before it came out. So I went with my expectations in check, and you know, I don't think I'm an easy audience, but I was pleasantly surprised that I enjoyed the new movie. I thought the Super Hornet looked good in it. It looks good, it looks sharp on screen. The two-person crew gives them a chance to work that dynamic, although they could have done the lead wingman thing. So they did a nice job. And in addition, the new movie has so many tributes or nods to the original, following up on the story or walking the same steps in terms of some of the lines and the plot elements and things like that. So I was sitting there enjoying the movie. I knew the Tomcat was going to show up because, you know, that was the worst kept secret. I mean, they showed it in the Super Bowl preview. You could see it for just a second. And so I'm just, you know, waiting for the Tomcat to show up late in the movie. And, you know, I'm going to sound like a fanboy or something, but when the Tomcat showed up on screen, I just go like, oh man, that looks so cool. Even though it was an enemy Tomcat, that jet looked cool. And then when they ran through the startup procedure, the Rio's got to jump up on the horizontal stab. He's got all the circuit breakers and stuff like that. All those little tributes to the Tomcat's quirks and personality. It was a very nice tribute to the F-14 at the end of a Super Hornet movie.
So unlike the first Top Gun, which was kind of ridiculous in a lot of ways, Top Gun Maverick actually had there were some, you have to accept some plausible deniability in terms of things that were in that movie, but I liked it a lot for two reasons. Number one, the tactic they used, the consecutive miracles bombing tactic, you know, putting two 2,000-pound bombs right behind each other a couple milliseconds apart. That's a real tactic that you would really use against a hardened target that's deep underground. We used to weaponeer that when I was teaching out at Fallon all the time.
So what I liked best about Top Gun Maverick is, of course, the F-14 in the climax. But also what I liked about it was the realism. So I think particularly Tom Cruise kind of learned his lesson from getting beat up for 25 years about the parts that the Bubbas said were unrealistic, including the patch assortments and some of the word salad using jargon and that kind of stuff. That when you look at that movie, it is nonsensical and it sort of gets worse with each viewing. So, you know, to his credit, Tom Cruise is like, okay, I won't make that mistake again. And also, as we know, being members of the Tail Association, that he was well advised with folks that we know in terms of, okay, here's where the limits are, probably don't bust those limits. So the fact that they were able to use the back seat of the Super Hornet, the F model, and represent that it's the front seat, those visuals were just incredible. And so we're out here in 2019 at Tailhook, and we got an early look at the trailer. And Joe Kosinski, the director, said these are the greatest flying scenes ever, and I think that claim is valid, having now seen the movie.
You know, I love the flying scenes in it. I really think they did a great job showing, and to know now how they did that, it's interesting to me. Some of it, as a pilot, you know, is unrealistic, pulling 10 Gs for 30 seconds, and some of it was mixed up a little bit to where I think the normal person wouldn't know, but as pilots, we know the difference. I like the movie. So I'm just in the middle of watching it for the second time. I'm about halfway through it. If I had a negative to that movie right now, I'd say I've yet to find any cool sayings, man. It's like, talk to me, Goose, negative Ghost Rider. There's none of that in the Top Gun 2 that I can find. I'm disappointed there, but anyway.
I saw the movie Top Gun Maverick, and I thought it was amazing. I actually really enjoyed watching it. It was a great movie for everyone. I think what I really liked about it the most is the flying. All of it was realistic. What they were saying, what they were doing, that's everything that we do in the plane. And seeing the Tomcat stuff, especially bringing in like the huffer, the circuit breakers, like, oh, this thing is ancient, you know. It was really exciting to see that stuff on how accurate it was. And then scrolling through the credits and seeing Chad Mingo Cucci, that was in our squadron, that was the technical director. It just brought even more meaning to that because he was part of our squadron, and he did such a fantastic job on incorporating the realistic effects of the Tomcat in the movie.
As a Tomcat guy, absolutely love the movie Top Gun Maverick. You know, obviously we waited a long time for it to come out. I think it was the right decision. Had to see it on the big screen. Got the opportunity to see it on the IMAX, and just absolutely loved it. But I got to tell you, when when they rolled the Tomcat out, it was kind of the best kept secret. You know, nobody talked about it. When they rolled it out on the end, you know, my eyes got a little misty seeing it, and it was spectacular. Thought it was fantastic.
But my favorite part is the part at the end involving the F-14. And so there was a lot of rumors, and the trailer itself had a Tomcat that flew through, sort of, you know, teasing the idea that the F-14 would be involved, but we didn't know to what degree. And then one of the last trailers, and on my channel I did sort of this, you know, hyper analysis of every moment of every trailer and made episodes out of that. So one of the last trailers had, you could see that the guy, who was obviously Rooster because of his helmet, they do a close, you know, go beak to beak with an Su-57. So the Su-57 is squatting, and if you look at the airplane, it's a Tomcat, because you can tell by the, you know, the top of the intakes and the way the wings are all the way back. So like, oh, so this is more than we thought. The F-14 really is involved. And then when you see the movie, it's just incredible. So what I liked about the involvement of the Tomcat, again, they were well advised, was the way that they started that airplane up. So Maverick hops in, says it's been a moment, so he's back home. I love that. And then Goose's son, Rooster, is gonna, like you're on a cross country without any ground support, gonna make sure that the airplane is both able to start up and buttoned up, right? So they did that right. And so he, you know, gotta hook up the huffer, the air unit that imparts air onto the turbines to get the jet started, because the F-14 doesn't have a self-start capability like the Hornet. So that's hooked up, so he yanks that off, closes the thing, pulls out electrical power, puts the ladder up. That's an important one, because, you know, otherwise you're gonna go flying with a ladder hanging out. And so that was cool. But the final thing that was awesome was he climbs up, like all Rios on a cross country have done once or twice, or a couple dozen times, up the back, gets on the horizontal stab, and then hops in by going across the fuselage and getting in the back seat that way. I was like, this is so awesome. I actually wept during that scene. And I got to see it early because I'm a major influencer, and Paramount sent me up to New York to see it a month early. And I was with a civilian who's the editor of military.com, and he's like, what about this is getting to you? I'm like, it's just so real. And so he sits in there and he says, oh my God, this is so old, right? And I'm like, dude, you know, that's state of the art. That was F-14A circa mid to late 80s, you know, TID and all the modes and things that we had, we won the Great Cold War with.
When Tom Cruise and the other pilot jump in the F-14 there, they have to start it using an air cart, right? An outside air unit to help start the airplane, which is true. And then B, after he starts it, things aren't working, and then he tells the guy in the back to cycle the circuit breakers, right? That detail. We cycled circuit breakers in that airplane nonstop. And when he looks around and goes, there's 300 circuit breakers back here, I was laughing my ass off. That was 100% true, 100% correct. And there was no reason to put that detail in there other than F-14 pilots would appreciate it. Because everybody else would go, why is that here? It doesn't make any sense. 100% true, 100% correct. Had to cycle circuit breakers all the time. So much more realistic than the first movie in that respect.
The last line I loved about the movie was, they're on their way out, and so they're gonna tangle with the Su-57s. It hasn't happened yet, but he doesn't have radios. And so he says to Rooster, Goose's son, find the UHF-2 circuit breaker. So the back seat is like a church organ, like you're surrounded by, you're like, you know, Keith Emerson of Emerson, Lake and Palmer, with just these things all over. And Rooster's looking around, he's like, there's 300 breakers back here, which one is it? And Maverick says, I don't know, that was your dad's department. That's so pilot Rio. That line got to me. Like, I was moved to the point of my tears welled up, because it's so real. And that's where this movie was beautiful in terms of true to the brand. Tom Cruise, to his credit, understood what this series means to everyone, but most specifically, guys in the business. And he teed these things up in a way that resonated beyond just the action or whatever the Hollywood, level of entry is. And so that's what was best about Top Gun Maverick to me.
Again, we're proud about the realism of the flying scenes. There's a couple liberties taken in the movie for effect, but 90% of that is that's how we do business.
Please like and share if you find the video content interesting. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and comment below so as not to miss new upcoming videos. And check out our website to look into all of our films. Thanks for watching.